Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Lee Charles TV. Today, I have the pleasure of interviewing Shaun Barker. Hello, Shaun. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Yourself?
I'm great, thank you. Shaun started off his career with Rotherham in the youth side, played for Rotherham from 2000 to 2006. Shaun, is that right?
Sounds just about right.
Sounds about right. Transferred to Blackpool in 2006, and in 2009 went to Derby and ended up your career at Burton Albion. I'm going to just briefly touch on Rotherham. Were you there through the academy, or was it a YTS scheme at that time? How did it?
Yeah, so it was a YTS. So I was grassroots until the age of 16. Surprisingly, probably to everyone that's ever seen me, I was a centre forward. That scored quite a few goals with my local team. I played for the county. I went for a couple of trials at Huddersfield and Ipswich and didn't get in. And then a friend of mine was playing for Rotherham for the under-16s.
All right.
And the manager then for the under-16s knew that we'd had a good Sunday League side and said, "Can you bring anyone along?" Right. He brought me along. I got offered a YTS and he didn't. So kind of all
great. bet he loved you at that time then.
Yeah. But yeah, it was. I was very, very reluctant to play football in a professional environment. Didn't like it. Really didn't want to play football for a living. Had no interest in pursuing it as a career. I loved it playing with mates. I loved the Saturday and Sunday. You know, I'd play 4 games a week and absolutely love it. But as soon as I got to that professional environment, I disliked it immensely. I didn't like how serious it was.
Yeah.
How we were treated. It was quite tough, and I was growing up in a family where it's all about respect. It's about being polite and respectful, and just found it really bizarre. I didn't like it at all. So I got offered an apprentice for the 16s to 18s. Really sat with my mum and dad and said, "Look, I'm not sure this is for me." My mum straight away was like, "Look, don't worry, you do whatever you want." And my dad was a little bit more, not persuasive, but was encouraging. He thought it was a great opportunity. My mum and dad started fostering when I was 2 years old. I've got an older brother and older sister.
Right.
But from me being 2, all the way up to probably 25 years, I think they had 180 kids in their house, in our house. So constantly sharing our lives with kids that were less fortunate than ourselves. So for me, my whole life, my whole way of thinking and well-being has always been kind of moulded by my upbringing, by being very appreciative of what I had. My mum and dad were so supportive with myself and every other kid, pushing what they wanted to for the child to achieve and what they wanted to do, never pressurising you. So for football, it was about enjoyment for me. When I got offered the opportunity, it was a bit more, my dad just being encouraging to see an opportunity, I suppose, and didn't want me to regret it later in life. I took that on board. Took it on board, of course, because we were close as a family, and my dad travelled everywhere. I'm talking everywhere to watch me play. He loved it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, he was really behind you.
Yeah, exactly. And we're from Nottingham, so he was a Forest fan growing up, and I was brought up in a kind of Forest household, and
we shall maybe touch on that a little bit later.
We'll get to that
as things panned out.
Right. But he followed Forest in his youth, and all the way up to really probably until he had kids, and then I suppose that was a transition to follow his youngest son go and play football, and
sure.
Loved it.
So he followed your career even when you were professional. Did he went to follow you at Rotherham? I take it. Would he go and watch the games?
Everywhere.
Did he follow Blackpool as well?
Every reserve game.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely loved Blackpool. I don't know if he missed a game, maybe 1 or 2 in my carear, but not many at all. My debut for Rotherham, actually, it was down at Brighton. It was the coldest day you can imagine at Whitdean Stadium, so there's no kind of stand supporting you. I think he turned up about 8 hours early just to make sure
he
didn't miss it. Oh. He's there with his shorts and his t-shirt on. It's absolute horrendous weather, chucking it down. He went lengths and breadths of the country to watch me play, and that's something I always felt very privileged to have a father that would support you like that.
You obviously, you started at Rotherham in 2000, 2006. You played 123 games, scored 7 goals. So you had a pretty decent spell with Rotherham. Happy times at Rotherham, even though you were a bit unsure?
Yeah, it was tough until probably I played my first league game, and then things kind of, the curtains almost opened, if you know what I mean. That you start to appreciate the early days, the kind of rest day, the playing in front of fans. After my first year, I was rewarded with my first proper professional contract, which of course is, you know, a big thing. So yeah, it was probably my hardest part of my career in terms of, if you're a youth player and you come into a professional environment, and the players that I was playing with were senior pros. We're talking 32, 33, 34, been around the block.
Yeah.
It was still that old school mentality. So very kind of tough on the lads, and very demanding.
Did you have to clean boots and all that sort of stuff? You had to clean the boots and
of course,
you had to do all that.
I had Guy Branston's. I don't know if you ever heard of Guy Branston. He was a scary human being. So big centre half, old head.
Right.
At 21, he was bullying every single centre forward you could imagine, and so his boots were absolutely pristine every day. It molded my career. I think, understanding that's the old school, that's how you do it, that's the kind of respect you show, that's the effort you put in. It was tough, and then it was probably the toughest part was that time leaving Rotherham and joining Blackpool.
It was Carlisle away. Do you remember that game when everything changed? And I think it changed at half time, and we went on an incredible run from that moment to obviously get promotion under Simon Grayson at the time. Blackpool went from not playing very well to playing like world beaters, and just went on an incredible run with Grayson. And we're just wondering, was there something said in the dressing room? Can you remember that changed everything at that moment for Blackpool? Do you remember it, or do you not remember it?
Yeah, I vaguely remember it. I remember the start of the season, signing and kind of looking around the dressing room, thinking we've got a good squad here. It was kind of like a drip feed of players coming in. So myself, and I think David Fox, and I think Marcus Bean had re-signed from being on loan. Then we had the likes of Andy Morell, Klaus Jorgensen, then the likes of Ian Everett, some players that played at a higher level. And we kind of knew we had a good team. It was about kind of getting that consistency. It was about getting that kind of that team, that solid team, that consistent team, I think, going forward. And we'd been a bit up and down in the first 10 games, not got the results we wanted, but something was starting to happen. A big part of that change was Wes kind of coming in and performing. Because he didn't start the season. I don't know if people remember, he was on the bench, and maybe, I don't know if he made the squad in the first week. Rory Pendergast was playing on the left wing. And we're watching Wes in training going, who is this kid? You know,
he was unbelievable.
Got some talent, this lad.
He was unbelievable.
But, he was a brilliant player, but, quite a character behind the scenes and on the training pitch. Bit of a clown, and kind of, he loved football, loved playing it. And that was his focus, was on the pitch on a Saturday. You didn't see the best of him until you got on a pitch, and even more so when the Sky cameras are on him, and he didn't actually bother passing to anyone in 90 minutes.
Showed off.
Not many teams where everyone lads says, "Don't worry about passing to me, Wes. Just do what you want to do."
Just do something.
But as soon as he started playing, he did, and everyone started to mould. I'd signed as a centre half. And I could see that the writing was in the stars at that point, because Ian Everett signed, Mike Jackson had signed, and I could see I got shuffled across for Bristol City away, and then we kind of got that back four at that point. Then, so things just, sometimes it takes a little bit of time, and I don't think it was one moment. It was just a kind of steady progress, and after 10 games, we just started hitting the ground running, and that was it. The confidence, the team morale, the camaraderie, the belief from 10 games onwards was through the roof, and that's why I went on such a good run.
People have mentioned, you probably will, well, hopefully you'll remember the playoff semi-final, first leg away at Oldham we were, and somebody called Shaun Barker came up with the first goal from a corner. Do you remember it?
I do, yeah.
There was thousands there. I was there, man. It was cold at Oldham. I remember it was really cold.
Great moment for me. Great moment for the club. Again, we were going into the semi-finals full of confidence. We had no doubt whatsoever that Oldham were going to get turned over in 2 games. And having that kind of belief in like one-off games is quite remarkable. I think you can go to a cup final, you can go to playoff, semis and finals, and there's always that doubt in your mind. And if you'd asked anyone in the changing room, absolutely anyone, they said, yeah, we're winning all of them. I had Taylor, I think, on the left-hand side. He was probably their better player. I remember him being a tough opponent early in the season. And after first, I think, 15, 20 minutes, they kept on giving the ball on the left wing. And sometimes, as a player, you've got the better of someone. And for me, the first 10 minutes of the semi-finals I felt completely in control of where I was playing, how I was going to do. In that game, we were dominant. I obviously remember my goal well, but probably remember Wes's even better. That little shuffle of his feet when the keeper came out, he didn't touch the ball. No. The keeper went on the floor. I think it might have been Gregan or someone. They ran into each other, fell over, and it just looked comedy, and he just slid it in the net. Brilliant experience for me. We got to that stage of the season, and we weren't particularly keeping clean sheets. We felt solid as a team and as a defence, but we kind of knew that it wasn't that important. It was kind of that way. I think we were outscoring the teams. We had. But I think people probably forget Scotty Vernon, the impact he made that season. I think he got 13 goals. From coming off the bench. Massive goals for us. And you had him on the bench because he couldn't get in the team, because you had Keegan who would score. And even if he wasn't scoring, he was constantly getting chances because he was running beyond. You had Anthony Morel, who obviously I think he hit 24 goals that season. The ability in around the box and link up play and his work rate. And then you had Ben Burgess as well, which is a completely different dynamic. That in certain games you go, it's not really working for Keegan and Mozza. So Ben comes on, and all of a sudden it completely transformed the team. And there's not many teams I've been in and scenarios I've been in where you don't feel as a defender you have to keep a clean sheet. That's your goal. You're part of a
you're so good going forward.
Look at it. And my job at that point, I was a centre half, but I probably spent more time going forward than I did defending, because you had someone like Forbesy who would play on the right hand side and cut in and constantly do the dogging work for going up and down and recovering for me, and I would bomb past him, and there was just like a connection between every lad, what they were doing on the pitch, and it was all about winning the game. It wasn't about clean sheets. It wasn't about strikers nicking a goal to win us the game. It was about we're just going to beat this team here. It could be 4-3. We didn't care. It could be 1-0. It was the results were kind of all over the shop. You can score 4 one week, and then it'll be really tight and hard to beat the next. And it's signs of a good team, I think.
It was a magic time for fans, obviously. It was the the run of the perfect 10 as well, which is historic for Blackpool. And I've got to just touch a little bit on Simon Grayson, because we've had Simon Grayson Mark 1 and we've had Simon Grayson Mark 2 at Blackpool. And obviously the first time we had him, he was just amazing, and I just wonder what it was like playing under him then, because the second time we had him last season, it just didn't work out.
I like Simon a lot. I thought he had the right kind of balance between, because obviously he was the player manager the previous season. He was still playing.
He kind of came as a player manager, but kind of just went into management pretty soon, didn't he? He didn't really he didn't play much.
So he kind of felt in touch, I think, with the group mentality, the group togetherness, because it just shifted from being a player to then going into management. And I think people find that hard sometimes. I thought he did it brilliantly because he was approachable. You could still see he was full of, like some managers have this kind of aura and kind of self-belief about them. That wasn't there, I don't think, particularly. And it was kind of almost endearing. You kind of felt that he was part of the group rather than a boss, if you know what I mean.
I felt like one of the lads.
What he did. But there was a level, of course. We saw him as the manager, but there wasn't big extremes between the manager and the playing staff. It was a little bit closer than that, and I think that was part of the close knit feel to it. I thought he was exceptionally good at getting characters in the building. People underestimate the value of getting a right mix of lads, and he did it exceptionally well. And I can explain that really well because you have groups of teams when you play in your career where there might be groups of 2 or 3 that get on and they go out with wives and they get together and form the bond relationships away from football. I can honestly say there was probably a dozen lads and their wives that got on, that regularly saw each other, that regularly had dinner and food together, and that were as close off the pitch and away from football as they were on it. And it's no surprise that you get that kind of those kind of runs in a season, those kind of performances that you remember
when you're that tight.
Continues. Exactly, yeah. And that's a continual theme. Even when Ollie came in, there was a close knit of players, like a core of players: the Ian Everts, the Ben Burgess, the Keith Southerns, the Ormerods, all of these kind of lads that had 2 or 3 years together and bonded a relationship beyond football. And then you add that with certain players like the Charlie Adam that I think had to adapt to be into a Blackpool scenario. So 6 months he had previous, he was still finding his feet, still to kind of understand what it was like to play for Blackpool and play for this team. The following season when he returned, he was part of that bond, and that's what you got when you got the exceptional season he had, because he had the ability, of course, but you have to be part of a team, and the team and the players have to trust you as well. And that continual bond between the lads and between the players in the team was a huge reason for the success. And Simon started that. Do
you keep in contact with many of those players? Have these, they're still good friends with you, or obviously moved on since?
Spoke to David Fox yesterday. Spoke to Ian Holloway a couple of weeks ago. Andy Morell I've spoke to a few times. So you do, there's certain players that you kind of bump into every so often, or you drop them a call after a year or so when you've not spoke to them. But I'd say there's probably half a dozen that I regularly keep in contact with, and there's definitely a connection with the Premiership lads. It's almost the bond got even tighter and even stronger because of that scenario.
Of course,
so did. I wasn't obviously part of that. I was the season before that, so I kind of my side, and then there's that. Obviously, there's the Premiership group as well, which that I'm sure there's an extra tightness to them as well. But we keep in touch. We occasionally catch up. Adrian Forbes has seen a few times. So there's a real bond that goes beyond football.
So what a season it was. We end up at Wembley and we get promotion, beat Yeovil. Take it, you'll remember all that. Had you been to Wembley before, or is that your one and only time? Or
I'd been to the old one once for a game and a visit. I think it might have been with school or something like that.
But you've not actually
so I've not been to Wembley many times. But no, not played it, or not even got close to kind of a scenario like that. It's my first kind of season of success in terms of what I suppose fans would deem as success. From a team that's winning week in, week out and get the promotion. I'd had success in a completely different way at Rotherham, because as soon as I signed as a pro at Rotherham, it was all about surviving in the Championship. I was never the standout player at like 15, 16 year old. So you can't even get your head around the fact that you could play in front of 60,000 in Wembley. It's, some players are destined for that, from an early age.
Yeah, sure.
These top clubs, there's a sense of them going to better things, to bigger things. But for me, it was my dad organised an actual coach. So all our family, obviously, at times in our family, there was 12, 13, 14 people. And I got my aunties and uncles. And so he actually hired a coach to take my group, my family, down to Wembley. And they only turned up I think it was 2 minutes before kick-off. So my dad was stressing, proper stressing, because he likes to be in there hours before.
8 hours early. Did he have his shorts on? Did he have his shorts on for Wembley, or did he? Oh, wow.
It's surreal, definitely. But just, a remarkable experience, something I'll never forget. And again, strange. There was no nerves about losing. I don't think it was nerves about your own performance, probably. But we went in there, knowing we were going to win. It's funny, when we watched Forest and Yeovil, we were hoping Forest would win, because we'd struggled with Yeovil previously in the season. We found them a tough opponent.
Right, okay. It's actually, God, you
wanted
Forest.
Yeah, we wanted Forest, And then obviously Yeovil turned them over, and we thought, this might make it a bit more complicated. But we were so dominant in the game, weren't we? It was only one team. I think they had a chance.
They just put a bit of nerves on it at the end.
We won 2-0, didn't we? But there was a moment where Marcus Stewart had a chance, I think, 10 minutes ago, and that was it.
Yeah, that was
dominant throughout.
But really, we were miles the better team on that day. I remember actually as a fan, because you won't have seen it, but Blackpool turned up very much in fancy dress. Really in fancy dress, Blackpool fans are crazy. There was guys dressed up as emus and all this sort of thing. Everything was mad tangerine. And I remember because we were so colourful and because there was so much fancy dress going on, we seemed to have about 5 times more fans than the Yeovil outside. And I remember looking at the Yeovil fans, and they were all kind of looking at us and thinking, we're going to lose this. These guys have come to win. They've come to party. They're winning, and you could see the fear actually in the Yeovil fans. And it was really a fantastic game. And Keegan Parker's goal was just just amazing, wasn't he? He just killed it in right, and I was right behind the goal, so it was fantastic. But great memories, and I'm so glad you did that for us.
Obviously, Simon left for Leeds. Was it around halfway through the season? So that was kind of that moment where you go, is the kind of the story gonna kind of unravel, and we're gonna find it hard. But to be fair, Tony Park stepped in, kept lots of the same ethos and the values that Simon had. And what he did as well is he had a DJ Campbell and Charlie to the group in the second half of the season. Now that huge kind of turning point for us, because to get 2 players of that quality for the second half of the season was massive, and obviously both played a huge part in keeping us up that season. We knew it was going to be tough, but sometimes it's all about that first season, getting kind of consolidate yourself in that league before you kick on. And the following season, the irony is we were more at the start of the season. Obviously, Tony hadn't got the job. Ollie had just taken over in the role, and I think we had 8 pros signed. I was, we knew that I was probably going to leave that summer, so that the kind of the season to go down was almost that second season when there was promotion, because they were set up to kind of fail almost. And what Ollie achieved in that second season in the Championship was, I think, has been unrivaled in football. Leicester came close, you know what I mean, with the Premiership League, but Blackpool with the squad that they had to get promoted into Premier League the way it did was absolutely unreal.
You left just before the season started, did you? It was just before.
It was pretty late on. So I think the club had maybe 12 or 13 clubs looking at me and wanting to buy me that summer. Forest and Derby, I believe, were the 2 that kind of showed the most interest and were willing to pay a fee that the chairman at the time was willing to kind of chat about. I, at that point, again, like everything for me, suggested that the move, because I'm obviously a Nottingham boy, to either Forest or Derby.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about this. I was going to ask you about this. It's a bit of a controversial move in the Barker family, especially with Dad being a Forest fan.
A little bit. It was strange.
He followed you everywhere, from being a little boy to Brian in his shorts to making, I don't know, coach trips to Wembley, and then you kind of let him down going to Derby, did you, or was he all right about it? How was Dad?
No, it was strange. I spoke. So obviously Nigel was the manager, so I spoke to Nigel once the fee was agreed with Blackpool. I was down in Exeter actually for the pre-season with Blackpool. And they granted me going to speak to Derby. I spoke to Nigel. I saw the chairman. They showed me around Pride Park and Moor Farm, which 33,000 capacity stadium. They showed me Moor Farm, which slightly different to Squires Gate, I'll be honest.
And it's still there, Squires Gate. We still haven't got a new training ground yet. You'll be pleased. You probably know anyway, but plans are underway. But it was terrible. It's terrible, isn't it, Squires Gate?
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It's not the prettiest. One of the best things that happened to our group was being at Squires Gate. I believe one time we were sharing 2 showers between 25 squad players. The boys were making shapes with the shower heads that weren't working, trying to make triangles and hearts and squares. And I remember Simon Grayson absolutely having a pop at us for that. It was like, they don't work, Gaffer. So, but seeing Derby, seeing the setup. I knew I was going to get paid much more money in terms of my weekly wage, and it was just going to change my life. Cool, it was a life-changing move, and for me, going back home, I got a kid, was raising a family.
Yeah.
So for me, I
spoke babysitters.
to the chairman at the time. I spoke to. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, don't underestimate that.
I know.
I spoke to the chairman, and I said, look, I've got another 2 years left here. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. I'm never going to sulk about not moving from leaving Blackpool. You've got to do what's right for your club. But I said, if it's on, I think it's something that I have to take. And he was brilliant with me. To be fair, Carl was brilliant. He said, look, I'm only going to let you go if we get the money we feel we deserve for you. If we don't, you're not going. And I said, that's fine. So we were kind of in agreement from the start that that's how it was.
Yeah.
There was a agree feed with Derby. Spoke to Nigel Clough, loved him, super honest guy. Told me straight away that this team, the team that I was moving to, wouldn't get promoted. We weren't going to get into the Premier League in the next 2 or 3 years. What he wanted was a team and a bond like Blackpool had, and he wanted me to be the centre of it. He wanted me to go and head it and kick it, defend for my life, show that kind of character that the Blackpool team had, and bring it to a huge club like Derby.
Yeah, wow.
And he sold an honest view of a quite remarkable club. And then, just as I'd agreed, he put me in a place called Morley Hayes, a hotel, which has no reception whatsoever, so no phone reception. And the following morning, I had 15 missed calls from my agent saying, do not sign. Forest have come in with a bigger offer. I know it's your lifelong club, growing up with kids. The chairman doesn't want you to sign for Derby anymore because he can get more money at Forest. I spoke to Carl and said, look, I've agreed with Derby. I've kind of spoke to the club. I've spoke to the manager. I've spoke to the chairman. I don't go on back on my word. I don't care what Forest are offering. I don't care what they've offered you. This is an agreement, and I ain't turning away from it.
Right. Okay.
Carl agreed. Agent agreed. Club agreed. And then I found out afterwards that Nigel put me at that hotel on purpose, knowing that Forest were going to bid for me at the last minute.
Right, so you couldn't be contacted.
He's not selling you.
He hid you away.
He knew I wouldn't be able to be contacted. Yeah, he got me a couple of drinks the night before and said, yeah, just relax, you'll come and sign tomorrow. I'm there completely unaware that there was no reception whatsoever. I went and signed the next day. And,
wow.
And to be fair, my dad at the time said, if Forest come, you should sign for Derby, because Nigel's the right man for you to play under, because he's honest. He's exactly all the traits that his dad had. You'll do well for him. He'll do well for you. And again, when you've got advice from your dad that is a Forest supporter all his life, telling you to go to the arch rivals, I think you have to take that.
Did he actually continue to watch you at Derby then? Did he have to go and watch you there? Or could he just not face it? He loved it.
No, he's... So I describe people that go and watch teams as two different people. There's fans who are fanatical about the team that will do anything. It's that they live and breathe it, and then there's supporters. So the supporters are people that have been grown up with that as their kind of team to support. Me and my dad, I'd say, were supporters of Forest. Now, I presume you're a Blackpool fan who's fanatical about. I'm looking around your room. You're fanatical. There's nothing can change, can it?
No,
me and my dad,
if my son goes to play for North End, I'm just going to disown him. That's it. I won't watch him at North End. I don't think I can do it. I'd just be ill. It'd be hard. It'd be really hard. So,
but yeah, he loved me at Derby. To see me playing in front of 33,000, I won Player of the Year the first season. I was captain after a couple of years. Super proud parents, and it was easier for him to get to a game, which is rather than travelling 2.5 hours to Blackpool every week.
Well, absolutely, yeah. It's just around the corner kind of thing, isn't it, compared to Blackpool? But it was a big move. I mean, all Blackpool fans, could understand, the chance to go and play for, for Derby County, and like you say, the stadium and everything. It was just a different, for the money and, for life changing, I would imagine. But Blackpool went and did you, didn't they? They went and did you in a way, because they went and got themselves in the Premier League. And do you have any regrets about that, or is it just? It's just one of them things that just, because you couldn't have seen it coming, could you? No.
Well, you make decisions based on what facts you've got and what evidence you got at that point, and everything pointed to moving to Derby. And to be honest,
it was a good move.
you never know. If I'd have stayed, I don't know if they would have had the money to buy Charlie. You know, that's how tight it was really at that point.
Yeah,
I had to be sold to allow Charlie to come into the building.
Oh, did you? Okay.
So, yeah, I believe so because, you know, some of the money that they got from me, I think they went out and bought Charlie, I think the following week. Right. So in terms of business for Blackpool, it was brilliant business. You know, they sold me and ended up getting a top class international player. So, and also,
a better player, basically.
I'm
only kidding.
Yeah, 100%, no doubt about that. But the whole journey, I was seeing some of my best mates go on this journey. Right. They played at Derby at Pride Park later on in the season. I was injured in that game, and they were the best team that had played us. Right. I was actually at Wembley in the playoff final against Cardiff in the Blackpool end with me and my wife and supporting.
Yeah.
So literally no regrets. I was delighted to see what happened with the club and delighted for all my friends, and they thoroughly deserved it over the course of the season.
Yeah, it was a nerve-wracking. It was a nerve-wracking stuff. It was a nerve-wracking experience against Cardiff, I must admit. I kept looking at the match clock, and it never moved from 63 minutes for about half an hour. I kept saying to my dad, "How long's gone?" He goes 64 minutes. About an hour later, I say, "How long's gone?" He says 65 minutes. It just went on forever and ever. It was so tense, but it was a wonderful day. And I suppose, you know, you knew them all, didn't you? They were all good friends, and I should imagine that you were very proud that day. I'm going to move on to Derby County because obviously, you know, there's going to be a few Derby fans watching this because I have been on their forums. So I've asked a few questions from them. How did Cloughie sell you the club? But I think you've kind of touched on that anyway, that he saw it. He said he wanted it to be like Blackpool.
The selling of the club was, he was honest, super honest. And asked me and told me what he wanted from me rather than, you know, someone trying to sell you that what could potentially happen. He knew what was happening with the club. He knew it needed an overload of players, and he had to bring the wages down, bring the age of the players down. It was an old squad that were on big money. So he sold me pure honesty. Didn't need to, do you know what I mean? But that went a long way for me because I knew I could trust him going forwards. The step up, it's strange. It's obviously you're not in the same division. You're in the same division, but there is a step up. There's an expectation when playing for Derby. It's a small city with, I think it's 1 in every 3 households will turn up to Pride Park. You know, when it's 32,000, it's remarkable. It's a football city. We talk about football cities, but this is it.
Yeah,
Derby County is everything to this city, and for me, I had huge pressure on myself. So I've been in the Championship, played lots of games in the Championship, but always been in that kind of smaller club mentality, and that kind of suited me as a player.
Stick it to the big
kind
boys.
Of dogged, honest. Exactly, that kind of work harder than them, be more aggressive than them, different for your lives, take care of everything that you do. All of a sudden, I was in a club and where the expectation was huge. So it took a little bit of time to adapt, but I think it was just the pressure that I put myself on. I knew that Nigel had spent pretty much all his money. I think he had to sell 4 players to get me in. That's how tight his financial kind of restraints were at that period for the club. So he couldn't actually sign me until 2 or 3 players had already gone. So I knew he put a lot of faith in me, a lot of expectation in me. He told me I was going to be the captain moving forward. So all of a sudden, being this kid from Nottingham that didn't really want to play football was the future captain of Derby County.
God.
So 100% there's pressure. It took me, my first game in pre-season was the worst game I've probably played. I came on at half time at Chesterfield away, but 1-0 up, and we conceded 2, both from my faults in pre-season. And I could imagine all the Derby fans are going, "What have we signed?" I know Robbie Savage said he thought he signed Sue Barker, not Shaun Barker. But it was a step up, but it was a step up in something that suited me. I felt very at home after maybe a month or 2 when I settled and got back to how I was playing Blackpool, which was being dominant at centre half and defending for my lives, and you know, doing all the nasty bits that probably previous seasons Derby County defenders didn't have.
Yeah, sure. I know you became a fan's favourite pretty quickly at Derby. It sounds like you had a few characters in the Derby dressing room then. You've already touched on it. So what was it like with Robbie Savage? What was he like?
He had a couple of pots at me in pre-season, and then start the season, and then I got to a certain level. I'm like, I'm not accepting this anymore. So when you go back to him, he was okay then, but he tested everyone, I think, and there was lots of characters in there at the time. I remember Roy Carroll being there, and he was full of it as well. And these are international players. These are players that have earned massive money. They've all played in the Premiership. So you're little Shaun Barker that's played in League One and Championship. You have to be able to cope with that, and you have to come back to them. And it took a little bit of a while to kind of settle in, but that Nigel has started to get a few honest players coming into the building as well. So there was Jake Buxton from Burton, there was Dean Moxey from Exeter, there was Lee Croft from Norwich. There was really good, again, Nigel signing really good people. And that was a nice mix with some of the more experienced players and some of the players that we'd had, that played top level international football. So it was a nice blend. But big characters, but something you just have to adapt to as a player.
What were your highlights then playing for Derby? Have you got any games that you really remember? You scored
every game.
You scored 6 goals.
Every game at Pride Park against Forest. Was big. I always did well at Pride Park against Forest. I think we had maybe 3 clean sheets in the 4 games I played against them at home. Probably my first season getting Player of the Year was Jack Stamp's Player of the Year, which was a huge achievement for me, especially because I had a slow start. My second season actually is probably the biggest achievement, apart from me getting back playing football after my serious injury. I played a full season without training, so I had no pre-season because I had a knee injury. I went so it was the first game. I trained on the Friday for the first day, the day before the start of the season, first game. We had Leeds away at Ellen Road. On the Friday, the gaffer Nigel said to me, "How are you feeling?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "You looked all right today in training." I said, "Yeah, it will take a bit of a while." I said, "Look, I want you to travel tomorrow." I said, "Yeah, of course I'll travel." "Yeah, gaffer." And then just as I was leaving the training ground on the Friday, he said, "Tomorrow, I think about putting you on the bench. You won't come on because obviously you're not fit and you've not done pre-season, but it would be good for you to be around the squad and the fans to see you back and all that." So I said, "Okay, yeah, no worries, I'll be on the squad." So you could do the warm-up. So I did that. And then at half-time, just before half-time, the centre-half had pulled his hamstring. I looked around the bench kind of like this, and I knew that I was the only centre-half on the bench. So he came over kind of a little bit sheepishly. I went, "Gaff, I'm ready." He said, "Are you sure?" I said, "It's going to be a long season." He said, "Yeah, I can play." So I ended up playing the second half of Leeds with 1 training session on the Friday, no pre-season, and then ended up playing 43 games in a row. But I didn't train, so I was managing to perform for Derby in the Championship without training at all. So that for me was a huge achievement, and for him, I don't think he ever forgot that kind of loyalty and honesty that I showed for him, because he knew he didn't have another centre half. I was kind of his main man,
right?
And he was asking me to really to risk myself to play for him and play for the team, and the kind of player that I like to think I am and the person I am. He didn't have to ask me twice. So I managed to get through all that season, and then stayed up with 3 games to go, and then I went and had an operation and was out for 6 months straight after. Nigel was there for the first, how many years? Probably 2 years of that injury. So everything that Nigel was there went above and beyond. So when I'm talking about an honest person, he wasn't a manager at that point to me. He was someone. He was a friend. He was someone that was honest and loyal and would stand by one of his players, and someone he obviously had a lot of respect for. So while Nigel was there, it was the club, and he was above and beyond what you can expect from a football club. It was slightly different when Nigel left, but I think it went from seeing me as a human being to then seeing it more of a business. In terms of I was still on the wages at that point, and I don't think, Steve McLaren never thought of me being able to get back on the training pitch in mind about playing again. So I think they'd kind of made a decision to move me on. What they didn't realise, I suppose, and didn't understand is me and my character, my drive to kind of prove myself right. I said I'd get back on a football pitch again, and if Nigel had been there when I got fit, I have no doubt that I would have played for Derby County again. But this is football. It might seem a little bit kind of harsh on the outside, but on the inside, that's just how it is. It's a mega business, and at that point, the club were doing, they had a lot of money in terms of pumping money in from Mel Morris to try and get promoted out of that league. Steve was he wanted footballing centre half, which wasn't necessarily my strength. So maybe I wouldn't have played anyway. But at that point, I'd got fit, got myself back in the frame, and wasn't really considered. So there's only really one thing that was happening, and that was me moving on.
Yeah, the writing was on the wall.
Disappointed, I suppose. But yeah, disappointed definitely because I felt I could have still performed for the club. But this is football. This is business, and I don't tend to do things personally because if anyone questions my character, I'll be very surprised. But ultimately, I wasn't in their views for the moving forward, so they made that decision.
It's a shame. From there, then, and you went to Burton Albion.
Yes, so I had a full year out. So I got released by Derby, and Nigel didn't have a club because if he'd have been in a club, he would have taken me straight away and given me the chance to play again. Again, this goes beyond. It wasn't his job to get me on the pitch again. At that point, he'd done everything he could for me, but it kind of felt that, I think for him, it felt like something wasn't achieved with me and for me, and probably for himself as well. He was, he probably fondly remembered me and my time at Derby with him, and what he did. He was, as soon as he got the Burton job, he offered for me to see the physio at Burton to get myself to a level where he felt he could offer me a contract. So I had a full year unemployed, just kind of doing my rehab myself. He got the job. I saw the physio for a few months, and then that pre-season, he says, if you can train a few times and be available for squads, i.e. for 5 minutes at the end of games when we're winning 1-0 and when we're winning, and I just want someone to go and head the ball. It says you'll be involved and you'll be a big part of this club for the next 6 months or year, however long it would be.
Okay.
So that's what he had me around for. He wanted me in and around the changing room. He wanted me in a squad if he was struggling.
Yeah.
He wanted me for
bit
certain
of experience
games. And ironically, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's the first time the club had ever been in the Championship. If we talk about kind of miracle rises in football, Burton's up there.
Another great story.
Yeah, exactly. To get in the Championship was huge, and he wanted me to be part of that to try and keep him up. And ironically, or written in the stars, or fate, or whatever you want to call it, my first game was Derby at the Pirelli, and I'd signed on the Thursday, and we were 1-0 up Burton, first time they'd ever met against the huge club that is Derby County.
Yeah.
And with 2 minutes to go, he said, "Box, are you ready?" And then brought me on against Derby for a corner in the last minute, and ball landed at my head, cleared it out of my head, and that was it. That was the kind of the very top moment, the best experience, the biggest achievement I've ever will achieve, to get back on a pitch and to play against Derby for probably 30 seconds or so. But that was down to probably everyone that's worked with me. Yeah. It was down to everyone that supported me, and it was down to Nigel being beyond a manager.
Oh, it's a fantastic story. Thank you. That really is. That's touching. Yeah, it really is. I better just lighten the mood quickly to the blonde hair. It keeps coming up everywhere. What happened? Why did you go for this blonde hair, Shaun?
What happened? Well, there's two things with what happened. I tend to have kind of different haircuts all the way along. And my love is music and fashion and stuff, not football.
Right. Okay.
So I have a different world. I live in a world of friends that are creatives, that are in bands, that fashion designers. So that's the world that I'm used to growing up.
Do you play instruments? Did you play an instrument?
I don't. I
just like music.
I wish I could. Okay. Yeah, if I could play a musical instrument or sing, I would have been a rock star. But so I've always like Rotherham had like a Ziggy Stardust haircut. I had like a shaved, kind of a short spiky hair with a long mullet when I was in Rotherham. I've had shaved heads. I've had obviously proper long locks. And the bleach one was. I wanted to bleach it for a while, and then it was a Christmas do, and the boys for Christmas do at Blackpool proper give it a go. I mean, like, they go above and beyond in terms of like fancy dress.
Right, okay.
Every year, it's brilliant. And
right.
I was going as a Greek statue.
Right.
So I was all white and I've got this dark hair and I couldn't sort it out. So I went on the Friday and said, right, I'm going to bleach it. So I bleached it all through. So it was pretty much white.
Yeah, it was.
White all over. And I went, yeah. And I went as a column. So there's like my head at the top and then I was like a column. So,
wow.
So yeah, so it was really just to have a really good effort at Christmas, do fancy dress. So
because it was a shock to black. It was a shock, I must admit. It was great though. It was really good. Yeah, you know, talking about you know, being a rock star. You know, a lot of people have asked about, you know, the nickname Reggie. You know, you do look a bit like a rock star. So just tell us a little bit how that came, why you are Reggie.
Well, Reggie, I'm still known as Reggie by everyone that's associated with Blackpool. So all my mates. So if ever was ringing me up, you're like, all right, Reggie, how you doing? Foxy yesterday. All right, Reggie. And it's stuck. And it's stuck from day one at Blackpool. I turned up to Bloomfield Road.
Yeah.
At that point, nobody knew who I was. And we'd got BLACKPOOL was the Latvian part owner at the time. And we knew that players were coming in from Latvia. So they obviously thought I was Kosovan or Latvian or something like that. So they were battering me, absolute battering me, because I turned up with like my hair slicked back to the side. I had like a long 3/4 map on. I had skinny jeans before they were classed as cool. I think I had my Doc Martens on. So I'm sat there thinking, you make an impression first day, don't you?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And then all the scouts absolutely battering me, thinking that I couldn't understand because I was Latvian, and they said I looked like Reggie Cray. So after that one moment, they're all burst out laughing, and I smile, and then they realised I was English and I could understand them.
Oh, so okay.
That, Reggie, so they thought they were fading me, and I couldn't understand. You see, but I was obviously just Shaun Barker from. That's just signed from Rotherham. They didn't realise. So,
they thought you were on the Latvian heavies. So you got the moniker based on Reggie Cray. I'd say on Reggie Cray. Yeah, fantastic.
Exactly. That's stuck from Reggie Cray, and it stuck from.
Oh wow! I can imagine that was really, really funny. I suppose you had you probably went on a few of the Latvian trips. Did you pre-season as well with Blackpool? Would you? I suppose there's some stories from there as well. What was Bellicon like?
You didn't see him too often. He seemed like a nice guy. Every time we met up with him, he would just pop in every so often, and you know, you knew he was coming. But he seemed like a decent human being and wanted the best for the club. He was enthusiastic and yeah, I remember Casper obviously signing from. I think he was at Riga at the time.
Yeah, he was amazing.
Who did an exceptional job at centre half for us for that year, and
yeah,
we did a couple of trips to Riga, beautiful place there, and yeah, it was a nice connection. It wasn't, you know, it wasn't overwhelming. You know, when you can have international takeovers and foreign takeovers, it can be a little bit probably powering, and it was just a nice balance. So you'd have a Latvian player come in every so often. If they weren't up to the grade, they weren't signed. And Casper's came in, and we talked about. There was obviously a lot of talk about him at the time, and he did exceptional for us and fit in really well.
He was a great player.
He was a good player. He was honest. He was aggressive. He scored some big goals that first season he signed.
He did,
and he went to a Bjork concert in the Blackpool Gardens with me as well. So fondly remembered for a gig. I couldn't get anyone to go to Bjork with me in the Winter Gardens at Blackpool, and he came along not having a clue who Bjork was, and then was raving out.
Was he?
4 hours
wow, fantastic. Fantastic. Just a couple of quick questions now that I've got a bit of fun stuff. Do you have any superstitions or pre-match routines? Were you superstitious?
No, not superstitious. I tend to listen to Rage Against the Machine before when I travel to the game. Very heavy kind of metally, thrashy kind of music, just because I like that kind of music before games. But nothing particularly. No, I don't think so.
So, did any of your squad at Blackpool have some stupid superstitions? Was there any with some crazy ones?
I don't know. I think a lot of them kind of kept them to themselves. I know that Rob Edwards. So he was an absolute joke. He's such a good-looking lad. He's turning up to the second season where you've got the likes of probably Fletch, who's not always in the best shape, and Croydie, and Rob Edwards. Rob Edwards would be on a balancing board in the middle of the changing room with his top off.
Right. Okay.
His nickname was the bod, because he was just the epitome of someone who takes care of himself. He sparkled.
Yeah, okay.
He had a six-pack. And I don't know if it was a superstition or if he just liked showing off in front of everyone that he had this ridiculous shaped body. But he used to do that before every game. And at that point, everyone's going, what on earth is he doing? Because, we were a bit more old school, and he was the super professional player from Wolves that took care of his body, ate certain things. And if you chucked pasta salad in front of Fletch, he would have thrown a punch at you. So it was... he had that little superstition of being in the middle and with his top off and stuff, but I can't really think of too many, to be honest.
Did you have a footballing hero growing up?
I won't say hero. My favourite player was Stuart Pearce growing up. No nonsense, left back, very aggressive, passionate. So kind of growing up, it was him. And at that period, when I was following Forest, it was Brian Roy and Stan Collymore up front, who were just amazing, brilliant players. And then there was Kevin Campbell as well. But not really. I wouldn't say heroes. Some people kind of really look up to certain players, but probably again just because I didn't love football.
No,
I watched it and enjoyed watching it, and I loved Match of the Day and stuff like that. But
you weren't football crazy. Obsessed. No, you just like playing football, didn't you, rather than actually watching football? I think.
Yeah, I did. I loved the kick about with mates. After at school at the lunchtime, and I just love the camaraderie and the competitiveness of it. I've always been competitive. No matter what game I play, I want to be competitive, and that's what I loved about it.
Who's the toughest opponent you've actually played against, would you say? Anyone comes to mind that was a nightmare to defend against?
Yeah, on a regular basis, it was Darren Huckabee.
Right, okay.
He was always, he was quick, he could use both feet. I remember playing at Norwich in the Cup. I scored, actually. I think we drew 3-3. And I remembered doing okay with him. And then I showed, so he liked to take in the wing because it was really quick and put his cross in. So I thought, he beat me a couple of times on the wing. So I thought I'd show him inside.
Yeah.
But I was about 30 yards out and I thought I'd got loads of space. So I showed him inside onto his right foot. And then he had a shot and it went in the top bin after, about 30 seconds into extra time. And it was just one of them players that you really struggled to cope with.
Yeah.
In terms of like top players, when we played against Tottenham at Blackpool when we lost 2-0 at White Hart Lane. Robbie Keane.
Robbie Keane.
When we played Tottenham in the Cup, we lost 2-0. And he was a joy to watch. I was playing right back. I had Mal Bronk on my side, who I dealt okay with, but I watched Robbie Keane and his movement, his enthusiasm. He was non-stop, always, he was playing Blackpool and I'm sure he'd been in much bigger games, but still doing the same things and non-stop.
Yeah, proper pro.
Him and Berbatov. But proper player. Berbatov just looked the part, but he was a real top player.
So just to finish off, just what are you doing now at the moment? What is going on in Shaun Barker's life? What are you up to? You're at the academy, are you?
So what is going on? I'm father of 3. I've got 3 beautiful young girls, which you can imagine keep me busy. I've got Eleanor, Blanche, and Jeannie.
Okay.
So they're my three priorities at the moment. I've got my full-time job is I'm a player performance coach for the academy at Burton.
Okay.
So 16s to 18 predominantly. So that kind of YT is classed as a PDP. So kind of group now, just the ones that are trying to get professional. Where I work on kind of them as individuals. So I go through the individual clips. I go through resilience training and kind of mental toughness. I do one-on-one sessions with them. I develop their IAPs, which is an individual action plan. So really trying to hone into individuals to get a professional contract at Burton, which I've kind of made up the role myself and developed it over the last couple of years. And I'm full-time with that and really enjoying it.
Okay.
I've got a T-shirt company that I started years ago. And then since it kind of fallen away and then in lockdown, I've started doing it again.
What's the company? Sorry, because again, we just lost you.
It's called With the Gods T-shirt company. So With the Gods. So So we were in like 20 clubs around 5 or 6 years ago, and football clubs this is, and we kind of deliver fashion merchandise for football clubs. Oh, wow. So over the next probably 2 or 3 months, I'll probably be releasing some Blackpool hoods and sweats and T-shirts and stuff, which I'll obviously send you links to, and I'll get you one. I've done you out one for one of your shows, but just because I've always been interested in fashion, I've always been involved in that side of things, but I'll be more relatable to my journey.
Oh, we'll definitely promote you on Lee Charles TV. We'll show those off.
I've been in Derby, Forest, Leeds, Preston. I won't mention that one. But yeah, no, didn't do very well. But yeah, I'm just going to start that back up again now, because in lockdown I learned how to design it all myself, which was a good period to kind of work on stuff for yourself. I'm a busy man. I'm always doing. I've got my own charity that I work on in Derby.
What's your charity called, Shaun? So I can put it under
Shaun Barker Foundation.
Shaun Barker Foundation. And what does that look after?
So it's helping kids in and around the Derby area, underprivileged kids with different problems. It could be social care, stuff that involves arts and culture and sports in the community. So I've done loads of different things. We've got a sensory room that's been put in Derby County Football Club that I've paid for with the foundations to help those with autism come to watch games in a safe environment. I've got one of them in Burton and at Derby County as well. So both clubs have helped me deliver that. I help certain kids in care with helping them get back out to play football and to get individual training for tennis and stuff like that. So really busy with it. It's demanding, of course, but it's trying to make a bit of a difference from the life I've been privileged to have, and just give a little bit back to the community, I suppose.
Right, thank you very much. You'll be coming. I don't know if you are coming to the game, but Blackpool have got Burton soon, haven't we? I think it's a Blackpool Burton. I can't remember if it's home or away, but we are playing you soon, I think. So, we'll see how we get on. Burton, we're playing terrible at the moment. If you're following our results, it's a bit of a nightmare for our channel.
Yeah, well, Burton are struggling at the moment as well. A good friend
we need
of mine,
him to be.
He's just taken over, and sometimes it's a bit of a transition. It's tough, and League One is a very, very competitive league. It is. It's not an easy league to get out of, and I suppose when you reflect on our time there, my time there, it's a tough league. It's competitive, and we've got some good footballing teams, and there's probably even more so with what's happening with fans not being in the stadium. I'm sure you can appreciate the difference.
Yeah, we're suffering with that because Blackpool fans are they do punch above the weight for the size of fans that we've got. We make a lot of noise, and we do tend to roar them on, and that North Stand really sucks goals in and that, and they haven't got that at the moment. And the only game they've won is the game when we had 1,000 in, and they cheered them on. Apart from that, we haven't. And
it makes a huge difference.
Yeah,
huge difference. And my wife said she's every club that she's followed me, obviously been to the games. The experience that she had at Blackpool kind of surpasses every other club. She said that the way that the fans were, she just said it was joyous. It was they enjoyed kind of supporting the team. The songs were optimistic, and I'm sure it was easier in the time when I was playing there compared to some of the darker days. But there's something positive about the way that the fans make the sound, make the noise, support the club. And if you ask any player that's played for Blackpool, they can agree to that the fans make a huge difference to the club and to the player.
As a fan, I always feel, part of the promotions. We felt like we cheered you on to a promotion. We felt like we got the team into the Premier League. We just roared them on there. And when we're in the Premier League, we never gave up. Even when we're 6-0 down against Arsenal, we were still singing we're going to win 7-6 or whatever. It just never stopped. I remember the Arsenal fans couldn't believe that Blackpool fans just never stopped singing, even though they were like 6. I think it was 6-0 down at one time at Arsenal. We just carried on, and it is a mad town, and we are a party town, and we're just, thank you very much for your time at Blackpool. Thank you very much for this interview. Honestly, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I'm sure Blackpool fans are going to love this, as much as we loved you when you were here. And just wish you all the best, Shaun, for the future. And who knows? Do you plan going into management or anything like that, or is that not your plan really? No.
Well, I suppose
you're going to be a rock star, aren't you? You're going to be a rock star next.
It's the oldest rock star to ever be, possibly. At 65, pick up a guitar and see what happens.
Yeah, well, if you learn to play the guitar, you never know. Thank you very much, honestly, and thank you very much for all those that have watched this this video. Hopefully you've enjoyed it, and if you have enjoyed it, please subscribe to Lee Charles TV and do all the normal YouTube stuff and give the video a like. We really appreciate that. And just an extra big thank you to you, Shaun, for being an absolute superstar and being so easy to talk to, and it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.